with a dollar store. They did kick the tires, but hasn't gone anywhere really. But Todd feels pretty strongly that the other 2 acre parcel will be able to find a tenant for that or a buyer for that as well. And the other piece I just wanted to throw out there, it's in my letter, but there are some wetland issues on this parcel as well. So when we talk about it being almost a 4 acre parcel, when you really look at the developable area for an industrial use, you have to keep in mind that that whole western corridor along Highway 32 really is kind of not developable because of the wetlands and because of the 70-foot setback that we have on the wetlands. So yeah, the idea of kind of cramming in an industrial use there actually gets even harder when you start to consider that. So otherwise, I don't have much more to add on the CSM. Again, it doesn't really come into play unless the second agenda item swings in the commercial favor.
Any others?
Just briefly, my name is Larry Smith. I live at 924 Wimble. I've had a business here in town for 40-some years, as you all know. I wanted to make that point that this land that we said has been here for 40 years and not developed, well, 35 of that marquee is owned. We've only owned this property for industrial purposes for a pretty short time, a 3-year window. And I would encourage this board not to let this property go. It's the prime location for an industrial park right there. I think anybody will say that. Well, I have to admit that. It is a very prime location right on the highway for access, for whatever you need for any kind of industrial purposes. And we've only been doing this with this property for 3 years. And granted, no one's come forth with this. But as we all know, we try to have businesses grow from within. I think the possibility that the businesses that are out there that are growing, and we all know at least one of them is certainly growing very well. I can certainly see that. I mean, has anybody even approached them? I mean, with buying this property or using this property? I mean, who knows? So I just would encourage the board not to let this industrial land, which is so precious to us, especially on this avenue that is coming in here. And the entire east side of that is industrial. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
Hi, my name's Todd Weller. I'm the property developer, and I'm certainly empathetic to everybody's concern. I'm from a town of 5,000 people, and I totally get where you're coming from. You know, if you look at, I have additional thoughts that come into play on the rezone, but when you look at just the CSM itself, you really got to look at the developability of that parcel. And Brody really touched on the wetlands and the way that they're configured on site. They really cover that first, if you look at the property from west to east, that first third of the property from the west to the east is wetlands. And then you've got to maintain a certain setback from those wetlands. And the one thing that industrial needs is semi-trucks. They need turn radiuses for those semi-trucks. You are not allowed to construct pavement over wetlands. You can't do it. So if you look at that site, the way that it's configured is very disadvantageous for an industrial type building that is typically, 100 feet in depth. So when a semi comes in, they're 52 feet with just the trailer. I mean, there's just, and you say you have a 100-foot deep building, a loading dock, there just isn't enough turn radius to configure an industrial building on the site. The other issue that we've discovered is I don't know if it was when they built the road, but I took soil borings. I had PSI, a local company, do that. I think they're out of Green Bay. And all of it is full of organic soils, and the water table is really high because of the creek there. So if I split that lot in half and I looked at it on a per lot basis, there's about $100,000 of bad soils on each portion of the site. Of course, I needed to share that with you because it's not something that goes on an application, but I have to go and strip about 6 feet of topsoil off the site, truck it away, and then bring in fill that can support the floor loading for concrete. And then also in the parking area, you have garbage trucks that come in, you know, cars. There's a different fill amount for semis. Manufacturing, high load capacity floors, that is going to increase that number of $100,000 per lot, even more. So I think what happens is somebody, you know, industrial user, say the state industrial, they're going to come in and they're going to discover all these issues. $200,000 of soil issues, the wetlands. I mean, there's so many challenges that I've had on this site that I have almost walked away. But I've tried to find a creative way to work through it and configure the site plan in a sensible way. So that plays into the CSM. And the question that you guys had asked is, well, do you split this in half? And I think these are factors that are critical to recognize is what does it cost to truly develop this site? And if we make a decision not to allow somebody to split the lot, you know, they're going to have these same economic challenges that I have walking in to develop the property. So that's really all I had to add towards the CSM. I do have some additional thoughts with the rezone in general, but just so you guys, you know, we're aware of what I'm up against to you know, actually develop the property. And again, sorry, it was Todd Waller. I'm at 6430 Bridge Road in Monona.
Thank you.
So that's like some of the information that we don't hear or didn't get, I think is important for our decision too. You know, lack of information, lack of communication sometimes does not help.
We've got one more person
Yep.
that's indicated who.
Chuck McGraham, Pulaski. So just listening to this gentleman here, so if he's going to split the properties and knowing whatever kind of business is gonna go in there, don't you get deliveries with semis?
They take a delivery on a box truck that comes around. So if you look and my site plan, I believe I've shared, but
I have semis that come into my little.
yeah. So on the when you come into the site, we take a right. I have that whole portion where the dump truck comes in. You're going to notice right across from, I'm sorry, not dump, the garbage truck. Right across from the garbage corral is a double overhead door that comes up. So that portion of my site does have 8 inches of aggregate in it. Just that portion, but not all my parking areas. So that's reduced down to 6 inches.
Okay,
And
so
then
you're
also-
you're splitting between the lot into 2 sections, and then the other lot, according to what you're saying, is that because there's wetlands, that now becomes from 2 acres down to 1 acre.
So when I split it in half, the wetlands, if you look on that handout, are dispersed along that whole western boundary of the site. So also that lot on the north, I don't have a project for that yet. It's out on the market for sale for anybody. I mean, it's there. You know, I don't have to develop it. A local business can come in and buy it. It's available. It could be a restaurant. It could be, you know, a retailer. You know, I don't know that yet. I'm not sure if I answered your question on.
Kind of.
Okay.
So, to add into that, the gentleman up there said he doesn't know what to go, whether his head or his heart, you know, and basically what it comes down to is money. You know, and that's what it seems like that we're all talking about here, money, okay? And being a taxpayer, and having Mr. Al Warren, who is not available tonight, who has put in a tax base into this property, into this community, and who has, well, let's use the Quick Trip for one. You know, you don't think that has put a burden on our businesses and will in the future with this development that you're proposing over here? Sometimes it becomes morals, you know, and I think we're losing that as a society. You know, and it's not labeling us as a community that shuns people from here. No, we're looking out for the best of us. And that's what we voted you people in here for, is to look out for our well-being. And we are the taxpayers. And do you understand that? You know, we're losing our grip with reality. And I'm sorry, and I don't want to be rude by this. This lady here from Madison, of all places, does she have the same moral values as we do in this part of the country? I don't think so. Yes,
I don't think that's fair.
well, okay, I
Okay.
apologize then.
Thank you.
But it does, it comes down to money. And let's be honest here, okay? I don't know what the outcome will be for this, okay? But if another auto parts store comes into here and it's a struggle for me and then I close my doors, you just lost another business. So what good did you do? What good does it do? You know, we talk about restaurants. Nobody wants to work in these industries anymore. We can't get a restaurant to come in here. You look at out at where the motel is. There's been a plan for a restaurant in the front of that for how many years now that's been out there. They can't get anybody to come here because nobody wants to work. Nobody wants those jobs anymore. So Larry and I'll bring up names, we employ people from the community here. I am a locally owned business that pays my taxes here. I support the local people of this community. And this is the thanks that we get. Thank you.
I myself asked the question, what if it was a different business? What if it was a grocery store or a drugstore or something that, well, it would bring competition, obviously, another grocery store. What would we say or do then? Just,
Well, I'd like to wait one comment. Bruce, what would you do? Doug, what would you do? If it's a business that's gonna conflict with you and make you leave town, what would you do? So, I'm sorry, 46 years here, and this is the thanks you get? I'm sorry, that doesn't fly with me. And the contributions that have been made to every organization in this village, that doesn't work. Just doesn't work. And granted, my point of view is economic development, but now it becomes personal. I'm sorry. You want us to leave town? We can close the doors tomorrow. I don't know. You know, we're not a big business. We can't accommodate 2 more auto parts stores. Do you not understand that? We're small. So if you can't hear that, then you make the decision. But that also means that we can't contribute anymore to the village. So, Bruce, I'm picking on you because,
Well,
you know,
yeah.
we're small businesses that
I
are
get
trying
it.
to survive.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
you're not supporting us as your goals have been said in this thing. That's not support. That's kicking us out on the road
Yeah.
and leaving us with a building downtown. So, sorry if I embarrassed you, honey, but
Well, I don't think you embarrass anybody, Chris. You're,
no,
it's
I know it's
It's
a
a
hard
tough- it's a
decision
tough
because it
decision.
is tax dollars.
right.
I get that. But you can't, why can't it be something other than auto parts?
Right.
Can't it be something else that we don't have? And that would help the community and encourage more shopping? Or whatever it is you want to do. So, I'm done.
Thinking about that specifically, I was the new kid on the block in 2001. There was 2 existing insurance companies. Now we have one of them that still exists with Premier Bank. One of them that exists over here and a new independent, and there was yet another one that, due to a death, no longer around, but Did I earn some business from those companies? Yes. Was I in direct competition with them every day? Not at all. It's hard to say with my industry how that relates to Larry's industry, but I don't know if competition was good and I brought more people along with me to compete in this industry, or what. It's just hard. If I had a crystal ball, this would be so easy. You know, if we do this, this happens. It ain't that easy though.
No, it's not that easy, no. And then, you know, they always say competition is good, but when you get to a specialty item, it's not like a grocery store or gas. Everybody needs that. Everybody doesn't need auto parts. And I get their business is a little bit different because they're more towards the homeowner wanting to do their own thing. I get that, but I think both the ones we have here fulfills that portion of it too. If my business had us just be supported by the village as far as business, no, it's not enough. I have to branch out. It's just the way it is. I just don't think putting a business of that magnitude with what we have is going to help our village, in my opinion.
Kristen?
I don't know if we're still talking about the CSM, but in relation to, I have 2 points. O'Reilly's and any other store that sees an opportunity in the market doesn't look at its only opportunity as taking business away from other competitors. They know who the competitors are in the market, and they wouldn't come here if they didn't see space for themselves in this market beyond just taking business away from the existing competitors. And the second point I'd like to make is that I'm going to need a list of who I can't recruit or try to recruit then from a business development standpoint. We've been trying really hard to get, anything and everything, and
Can I make one more point? Okay, so I think it's a tough one because, I respect the position of where this gentleman's coming from, and I think it's really hard. It's really hard as a board, and I think it's a tough line to walk when you get down to, evaluating, critiquing every single use that comes along. If it's a restaurant, there's going to be restaurant competition. If it's a manufacturer, there's going to be a manufacturing job across the street competing for the same person. If it's somebody that manufactures boats, they compete with marquee yachts. I think there's always a level of competition in a market. But I think overall, it's a good thing. It creates choices for the consumer. Quite frankly, I'm loyal to the places I shop, and I bet this guy's got a way closer relationship with his customers than O'Reilly ever is going to have. And I quite frankly think it's very difficult for them to come in a market that has that loyalty. They feel like the consumer expenditures are there and are available. And I think the hard part in your guys' shoes and sitting in your position is, how do we vote? Because somebody can get hurt, or potentially. There are multiple markets, though, where the multiple auto parts stores exist. But I think it's hard to just funnel down on just auto parts, because there's going to be a half dozen jobs right out of the gate that are full-time salary positions with stock options and benefits and full health care. That's pretty beneficial to the family or the mother or the father, whoever that has kids, that now has expanded menu of options of where they can go and work. And I think that's really important. Aside from just the tax base, it is jobs for the community, and they are there. The shopper still has the option to go down to the Napa or the store downtown. That's at their discretion. And, I think it's every business finds their path, like you mentioned. And that's really what I wanted to add to it. On top of the half dozen full-time jobs, there's going to be 4 or 5 part-time jobs. So I think that's something to strongly consider, is we can really kind of going down the rabbit hole if we, really focus on individual uses. And when you look at the big picture, you know, there is a whole other lot here that has the ability to add more jobs and expand that tax base and be developed. It can be the future home of a local business. I mean, I would love to have somebody come in and say, hey, you know, I want to build here. So I think it is a positive. I think there's more to this than just, you know, competition at an auto parts level. So.
One
wanted to share
last
that.
thing, that neither one of them work for O'Reilly's, I'm assuming.
The what?
You don't work for O'Reilly's?
No, no.
Then how would you know?
How would I know what?
How would either one of you know what their plans are? You mean to tell me that they come in here and they do a study and they say, well, there's 3,500 people in this town and Larry has 1,200, I have 1,200, so there's the rest of them out there? I don't think so. You look at any other town that O'Reilly's comes into, it said they, like Seymour. How many places closed down over there, Larry? 2?
2.
People that have been there forever. Okay, they're a corporate store. Corporate. They can come in here and they put their prices right down to nothing for the first year or two because they can. And then they drive us out. I had an employee that worked for AutoZone, that one of the first ones in Green Bay, did the same thing. So don't tell me that they're coming in here because they see a need for it. There is no need for it. It's an opportunity. What, full-time jobs and benefits and all that. It's hard enough to find people here now to work for us. You know, you come in here and you throw all this stuff out there, but you don't own a business. You do not own a business. What do you own?
Motion to,
Well, a consulting
I
company.
had one more question. With the split of this property, what does the footprint look? Is it pretty similar size for both after you take the wetland portion out of it? Or will that north lot be smaller because it starts smaller and it's got the similar amount of wetland?
They're very, very close.
Okay.
Yep. Because it's pretty much split in the middle, and the wetland disbursement's extremely similar. So I think you could maybe get 7,000 to 8,000 feet on the site. Now, depending upon parking. You know, if it's a restaurant, they have a higher demand for parking, so I think that building size would have to shrink.
Thank you.
could I motion to close the floor?
So moved.
Second. Bruce and Bob, Pulaski, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Number 5, motion to open public hearing, petition for rezoning, Quick Trip Incorporated, petitioner/owner.
We just need a motion to close the entire public hearing on number 4.
Okay, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I thought that's what I used to do. Okay.
Thank you. And 2, second?
I'll second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's what I thought I just did.
We closed the floor first.
Yeah.
Again, motion to open public hearing petition for rezoning Quick Trip Incorporated, petitioner owner, 1626 Oak Street, across Wisconsin, 54602. Pulaski Capital LLC, agent for petitioner owner, 6430 Bridge Road, Suite 230, Madison, Wisconsin, 53716. Request to rezone parcel VP 41-2-1, vacant land, Markham Drive, Pulaski, Wisconsin. Current zoning is I-2, heavy industrial district. Current uses of the property is vacant land. Zoning request change to B2 Highway Business District for 7,225 square foot retail building. The use is consistent with other commercial uses along the Highway 32 corridor. Legal description is attached per the CSM.
I'll make that motion.
By Doug,
I'll second.
by Gordy. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
I wonder if there was an idea that Marquis saw for this property when they decided to sell. If anybody
They have
knows
gone
it.
through like 3 evolutions in the last 10 years, so.
They became more and more detached from all the additional properties they
Well,
They
had.
try to consolidate, I think, as much as they
They've been
could.
selling off land for 6, 7 years.
Mhm. Okay. That's
In
right.
my conversations with Paul Liss at the time, he did not care what it was.
Just, we can't have it
Just
on the
sell it.
books anymore.
Mhm.
Bill?
I don't have anything.
I
have no
Where's
solutions.
your
Afraid
insight,
you
Bill?
say that. Do I say it this time?
You can open the floor again for,
Yeah, we can open the floor.
I'll make a motion to open the floor.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Floor is open. Sir?
Road Director again, Wood LLP, 2 East Mifflin, Madison. I won't bore you with reciting everything that was in my letter earlier. I just want to go back to something that was said earlier, which is, I think it's important to think about what you would do had this petition for a rezone come before you without any rumors of tenants, without any discussion of what the use was going to be. Because this has clearly gotten very personal, right? And this, I don't want this to bog down the question of whether or not the rezone is an appropriate action for the village in light of the standards that the law sets forth for reviewing a rezone. And the more you can, I guess, just detach the use that has been discussed from the true action before you, which is rezoning this property to commercial, right? Because there is no, if you vote to rezone this property commercial, you're not voting for O'Reilly's to come in. You're not voting for Dollar Store. You're not voting for anybody to come in. I get it. It's impossible to completely detach yourself from that. We all know what the result would be, and I'm not going to stand up here and pretend like it wouldn't. But it is important for you, in going through your mental process of deciding what to do with this property, to at least consider what you might do were this just a rezone petition without a use plan. Because, we can point to O'Reilly's and we can point to Todd as being the instigator here, but at the end of the day, we looked at the village's comprehensive plan, and we noted that this property had been identified for future commercial use. And that was done in 2017, which was a direct departure from the prior version of the comprehensive plan, which means at some point during the process of doing the comprehensive plan, it was identified. And yes, I would agree, it probably very likely was a result of Quick Trip coming in and buying that property. But at the end of the day, the law says that when you're reviewing a rezone petition, one of the first and most important things to review is the rezone petition consistent with our future land use plans? And your future land use plan has this property identified as future commercial. There are other items to be considered when you're considering a rezone. Consistency with neighboring properties.